I mean, come on. The most important thing we can talk about today after the week we've all had is it's Friday. Good God Almighty. You made it to Friday, everybody. Congratulations. It's a weird docket of things to talk about today because we're post-storm stuff, and yet something weird happened in the headlines. We've crossed the Rubicon, I think. We've crossed the Rubicon where everything is all intertwined because of this damn election we have. It's literally in days now. I'm talking about entertainment's mixed into it, sports is mixed into it, all of it together. So I hear you. I can't wait till we can talk about politics less. But it's dominating everything. On that note, the big guns have come out for the candidates, the surrogates, as they call them, including Barry Obama. We're going to talk about that. Got a little Trump date for you on his schedule coming up here. Some new movies out this weekend because it is Friday, and we got to talk about that. And a story that I've waited years to get to talk about. And now it was finally proof and come full circle. Bill Nye, that's right, Bill Nye the Science Guy, is a total and complete fraud. Oh, you just wait. All right, let's talk about it. Like I said, the big guns are out. You know who's back? We haven't heard from him in a long time. Barry Obama. President Obama was back yesterday on the campaign trail for Kamala, obviously. And I think it should tell us a couple of different things. I think finally, we can really believe that those internal numbers that we've all heard about for the Democrats are really bad for her. They're not looking good at all. Unless something changes, obviously. So that's why you bring out the big guns of the campaign trail, right? Like Obama. And he was there at an event in Chicago called Black Voters for Harris and Walz. It's not, I didn't come up with the name. That was the actual name on the placard. It was Black Voters for Harris and Walz. Is it just me, or did you get this same impression if you saw some of this? Yeah, he spoke on stage and he did his normal thing. He's a great public speaker. He just is. He's really smooth. Has Obama lost some of his mojo?
We have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running.
Right. Barry?
Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers.
I'm sorry. Is it? And maybe it's just me. It seems so disingenuous now when I hear Obama talking about the brothers. You know, I know he's a South Side of Chicago guy, and I know he's worked his way up, and I know he knows that community. I know he knows that. I understand that, and I also understand full well all the support he got from what he likes to call the brothers when he was running and won twice. Now, though, now that he's been president, he's been out of office for some time, I don't know. It just seems disingenuous to me. It just does when he's talking about the brothers. And it's just something off about him. There's just something different about Barry Obama. The energy's not there with him. I don't know what it is. But I would say this. I think because they brought him out at this stage in the game, not like they usually do, and this is both sides, not like a couple of days before election night or election day. They bring him out a few weeks before this happens. Yeah, I think that's actually true. I think their numbers may be really bad. Which is why, and they all do this, it was Trump with Travis Tritt, and Trump with Danica Patrick, and Trump with Kid Rock. He's got his surrogates on the entertainment side, too. But the team that cornered the market in that department, in owning Hollywood, has been the Democrats. They've done it for years. So they're out, too. So there was a Women for Harrison Walz campaign event. And who needs political insiders and pundits when you have the majesty and the inside information like the brilliant, wink, wink, nod, nod, Julia Roberts. That's right. Julia Roberts spoke yesterday as well.
Let's just get it going. Enough with the fighting. Let's get to the uniting. Let's get to the joy. Let's get to the repair. Let's get to prices dropping, rents dropping. Let's get to the good stuff so we can start living our lives to the fullest potential that we have.
Yeah. That's right. Now, I can sit here and laugh, but do you know how many people connected with that? And actually, they bring them up because they do change votes. They really do. I mean, there's enough people out there, and I know it's scary. I know they're out there and they vote and they drive amongst us, but they're out there. Well, I wasn't sure about Kamala, but Julia Roberts is my favorite actress, and she told me to vote for her. So yeah, I want to get back to the joy. That's why they bring him out. Effective or not, I don't know, but there you go. There she is. But another one pushing that lie. But in Julia Roberts' case, I think she actually believes it. I think she actually buys it hook, line, and sinker. Completely forgetting the fact that Kamala Harris, playing both sides of the fence, She loves to say she was in on every important decision, but we want to move forward. We're not going back. But the going back would be going back to you. You're the one that's been office. You've been right there. You love to claim that when it benefited you. You love to. Now, Julia Roberts, I don't think she actually understands that very well, but you and I do. All right, more surrogates on the road. Well, you got to get, I mean, it's standard, right? You got to get the wives of vice presidential candidates out there, don't you? No, not so much? Yeah. This is another weird thing and another telltale. Now, J.D. Vance, he's not having his wife, Mrs. Vance, out there speaking. Usha, she's not out there. I mean, you see her with the family events, and she was on stage at the Republican National Convention. You don't see her out making campaign statements. But again, take it for what it's worth. Do we believe polls now or not? But they're saying things are collapsing inside the Kamala Harris-Tim Walz campaign, which I guess is why you'd have Gwen Walz out there speaking. But, I don't know. I'm hearing it for the first time, too. Let's see what it sounds like.
To the other team we'll never yield, and we won't forget we're here. We will fight for victory and win.
No, what was that? What? Gwen Walz, what was she singing, by the way? Does anybody, what? How do they possibly think that could help? And you're thinking the same thing I am. Like, we all know Tim Walz, okay? In public, and this is more of a visual kind of thing, he's just spazzy. He just kind of moves a lot. He's got gyrations. And there was a thing on stage the other day where he was arm in arm with somebody. So that didn't stop him, so he kicked his leg. Can you imagine them in the home? So there's Tim, all spazzy Tim himself. And then her? Good God. And these were the people that called the other side weird. Don't forget about that. She just said, I got to find out what that song, I don't know what that song was. She was in Wisconsin. Was it the Wisconsin fight song? I don't know what that was. Oh, boy. Well, maybe there's a reason why. Maybe there's a reason why you send out Julia Roberts and, Obama in one way, and Gwen Walz out there to kind of cover. Things aren't going well in another respect for that campaign. And I know it's a lot of politics, but again, it's all kind of intertwined these days. Tim Walz flubbed up big time and apparently got into a lot of trouble. You might have read this story. He was at a Gavin Newsom fundraiser, of all things. It wasn't recorded, but it was written down. There were a lot of reporters. There were a lot of members of the so-called free press in the room at the time, where Tim Walz basically said, in his Tim Walz kind of way, well, we got to get rid of that electoral college. I think it's time. I think everybody understands that. Well, now, the amazing thing is, and I don't know what's going on with the media questions these days, on ABC Good Morning America, Michael Strahan, who's everywhere these days, he actually called him on the carpet for it, because apparently this has become a story. Tim Walz is going to deny that they even, well, not that he talked about it, but the fact that it's a Harris campaign statement. But the amazing thing is, they actually asked him about it. Tim Walz on the Electoral College, and a good question out of Michael Strahan.
I want to go back to something you said on Tuesday. You said, I think all of us know the Electoral College needs to go. But the campaign came out later that night, and they said that's not their stance.
Yeah. Well, it's not the campaign's position.
Oh,
and the point I'm trying to make is that there's folks that feel every vote must count in every state.
Yeah. Let's get something straight right now. Oh, it's their position. It's just not an official position. And they didn't want you talking about it and blabbing about it at a campaign fundraiser event because, amazingly, you didn't think that would actually get out of the closed event room for Gavin Newsom in California, you absolute dope. Oh, it's absolutely their position because they know they can get the popular vote. They absolutely 100% would love to remove the Electoral College and to stack the Supreme Court. Of course that's part of it. But here's the difference, Tim. And this is why they made another big mistake picking this guy instead of that smart dude Shapiro out of Pennsylvania. They don't want you talking about it. Of course not. They don't want you outwardly saying at a campaign event, I think it's time to get rid of the Electoral College. If you get rid of that system, you know what you have? We are Canada at that point. Here's what goes on in Canada. They have a popular vote that decides everything. So you know what they have? They have one major city that controls their entire country because it's mostly leftist, and that's the city of Toronto. So the entire nation of Canada is run by that one left-wing city that decides everything. So you know what would happen if we got rid of the Electoral College and actually trampled on the Constitution here? You've got New York and L.A. dictating what the rest of the country goes through. So those of us in the middle of the state, in the middle of the country, or southern states, or the Midwest states, The flyover states the Democrats don't seem to care about. Completely and totally forgotten. That's why he's out there saying, I think it's time that and this is always the buzzword, every vote should count. It does count. In a great system. And the founding fathers were brilliant because they knew that large urban areas would dictate how these countries go. Well, I think it's time to get rid of it. It's absolutely one of their positions. They don't want you talking about it, though. They don't want it out there because it's so. And when they tell you, when the speculation is that you see the Democrats and the far left-wing element that's taken over their party and they want to trample the Constitution, there you go. There's their guy at a fundraising event for a far left-wing California governor talking about getting rid of the Electoral College. Well, it's not a campaign position. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. All right, we'll get out of politics, kind of, in just a second here. But there is a Trump date to talk about. Yesterday was the breaking news, and he confirmed it. Trump has booked and will speak at Madison Square Garden the end of the month. I think it's October 27th. He wants this bad. I don't know what they're telling him in the inside or what he actually believes. He's not going to win New York City, but I think he thinks that the state of New York is in play. I really do. I think he thinks he can get it. And just as a homecoming, to speak at Madison Square Garden would be absolutely massive for him. I can't wait to see it. The other big news didn't come from the Trump campaign itself, but it did come from, and we were talking about these surrogates that are out there. That the Harris Walz campaign has, singing Gwen Walz, but also Julia Roberts and Obama and all the other celebrities out there. Well, look at the team that Trump has. He's got Vivek Ramaswamy, J.D. Vance's actual running mate, Elon Musk, RFK Jr. That's a team. That's the new MAGA Avengers. Well, one of his MAGA Avengers, Elon Musk, said yesterday, and this is a big media thing. This is big, and I think he's waited to get the timing exactly right. Shortly before the campaign, one of Trump's last media stops, according to Elon, and he would know, he probably negotiated the thing too, is for Trump to go on Joe Rogan. That's a massive, massive update. He's got to go on Rogan. And Joe Rogan has said that he's completely open to having Trump on, as he should. Be a huge score for him and for Trump. That has to happen. So if Elon is saying it's going to happen, I tend to think it's going to go down. What if they're both on? No, I don't think it would be both on there. Trump wants the spotlight all to himself. Imagine Trump sitting down, facing tough questions from Joe Rogan he'll do like an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's not exactly Kamala going on the Stern Show. Not exactly the softball kind of question she would face. All right, speaking of surrogates, and I guess that's today's theme, who's standing up for whom and who's campaigning for whom? Well, I've waited to talk about this for a long time. Bill Nye the Science Guy. And a lot of us had kids, or maybe yourself, watched that show. Bill Nye the Science Guy, right? Bill Nye's a fraud. But he's out there now. And the old saying is never let a crisis go to waste. Never, right? It's what the Democrats have said for years. Actually, it's what the Marxists said for years. But anyway, they kind of adopted that slogan. So Bill Nye's out there talking about hurricanes. What's the problem? You know what the problem is? According to Bill Nye and all the Democrats, the reason why you're facing all these hurricanes is because of Trump, and he doesn't understand climate change. Of course, you knew that was coming. So where does he go? The safe place, MSNBC. Bill Nye encouraging you to vote for, not the Trump side of things.
The other side, as we often call it, has no plans to address climate change, no plans for long-term dealing with these sorts of problems. If you have young voters out there, encourage them to vote. People say, what can I do about climate change? If we were talking about it, associating it with big storms like this, that would be really good. But the main thing is vote.
Gee, who do you think he wants you to vote for? Could he make that any more obvious? And the other thing is, who isn't talking about climate change? Go back. We're 10 years now of one of the biggest issues that is pushed nonstop by every media outlet, especially the CNNs and MSNBCs of the world, forever. But it's climate change now, these storms. You can't. Can Bill Nye tell us what the temperature of the water was, what the ocean was 400 years ago? No. In fact, they can't accurately predict or actually measure the correct temperature of the ocean right now in current day. And yet all of this is because of climate change. All of it, right? The climate crisis. So what his plan is, and he talked about the plan there, no plan from the other side, as we called them. Well, we know what the plan is from your side, Bill. We know what you want to do. You want to use this opportunity, this crisis opportunity to tax the middle class into oblivion. That's been the goal all along. That's what your plan is. And why is it this guy? Why is it this guy's become the leading advocate for the climate crisis? You know, all of the climate model scientists, where almost every single prediction on this has been wrong so far. Al Gore by now told you Miami was going to be underwater. He actually said that. He said by the mid-2000s, Miami, gone. That's what he said. But nobody holds them on the carpet because this is one of their main talking points. So what are they left with? They're left with Bill Nye. Bill Nye, the science guy. Or is he a science guy? Well, let's see. He's actually a mechanical engineer. That's his background. And nothing wrong with that. By the way, nothing wrong with any of that, to be a mechanical engineer. And then he worked for Boeing when Boeing was, I think, probably a little bit more reputable. And that's fine, too. Worked for Boeing. That's great. But he left that to become a comedian on stage. He did some improv and some skit stuff. Again, nothing wrong with that. A TV host, of course, where he made most of his fortune. And he still does, by the way. He's on the payroll for CBS and NBC. Nothing wrong with that at all. Bill Nye, the science guy. But he's their main guy now, talking about climate change. Why am I listening to a TV host mechanical engineer about anything these days? Bill Nye is a fraud, and he always has been a fraud. But I will tell you this, if that's what they've got, if he's the leading voice for all of their environmental issues they want to push on you and me and everybody else, and that's not denying climate change at all. I think what most logical people are denying is their plan for it. How is it going to be fixed by taxing the middle class into oblivion? It's not. Stop listening to Bill Nye. All right. It is the weekend, though. We got some movies to talk about. Unfortunately, yes, like I said before, everything is intertwined these days. You see what I mean when I talk about the movies. First of all, I don't know too much about this one, but it's out. Probably the kids are going to really enjoy this, and they made a journey through the life of Pharrell Williams. It's called Piece by Piece, as told through the lens of Lego animation. Actually looks kind of cool. I saw the trailer. Pharrell wrote 5 original songs for the movie. All kinds of stars are in this thing to voice it. It's probably going to be pretty cool. It's called Piece by Piece. I don't know too much about it, but I did take a look at the 2 trailers on this one. This is what I mean by everything getting intertwined now because we're so close to the election. Are you ready for a new movie in theaters? Actually, as of last night and this morning, too, called The Apprentice. Oh, that's right. It's all about Trump. Well, that's not suspicious timing, is it? Right before the election? What's that sound like?
Yes.
Hello, this is Donald Trump from Mr. Cohn. Thank you so much.
Donald who?
Well, let me take a guess at how they're going to portray Trump in this one. I'm sure it's going to be fair. They're going to show all of his accomplishments for the city of New York and this business he built up right now. Oh, well, maybe it'll surprise us. Maybe. I'm not expecting it, but maybe that'll happen. Sebastian Stan plays a young, impressionable Donald Trump, they say, in the 70s and 80s, and his relationship with the cutthroat attorney, Roy Cohn. You heard there, apparently, answering the door to talk to him. Roy, according to the movie, shapes Trump into be the presidential candidate we know today. Jeremy Strong, great actor. So is Sebastian Stan, plays Roy Cohn. So I'm probably not going to go out and watch that in the theaters, but we'll see how it does. I'm not expecting, it doesn't really give you an impression through the trailers, them to portray Trump too fairly, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, I wonder why they released this a couple of weeks before the election. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. More importantly, it's Friday. What a week. What a crazy week. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. You can find the audio podcasts for this little experiment of ours on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Just search for Wicked Radio with Bill Adams. You can find it wherever you find at Wicked Bill Adams. I'm on there. This lives as opposed to on X and on YouTube. But a great week, and a lot of you sharing it along too, and your comments have been fantastic. So I appreciate you so much. Have a great weekend, more importantly. It was crazy. A lot in the news. A lot of people recovering from hurricanes and storm weather and all that stuff, but we made it through. We've got a weekend. Have a great, safe, awesome weekend. We will talk to you on Monday. Who the heck knows what's going to happen? But our 2 takeaways today, number 1, Bill Nye is a fraud. And number 2, but most importantly, don't ever take any crap from anybody. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.